Then it's good that you set this up now because I was trying to write this morning, like writing in the book, the graphic novel stuff, and
Yep.
it just sometimes it's just not happening, man. Sometimes it doesn't feel authentic. Like I didn't feel like I was writing anything authentic, and I was just like really racking my brain, and I wasn't coming up with anything. So I was like, when you hit me up, I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. Put
Yeah.
that down for a second.
I was in the middle of uploading the next like 12 Spirit Talk episodes and like writing out like what they're about. It's obviously it's that's the worst part about it because you gotta like talk about this person after you've already talked to them. So it's like trying to build out their biography in case someone a casual listener of Spirit Talk would be like, well, who the hell is Eric Bass? So you gotta fill out, oh, Eric and Thomas. And like it's the worst part of what this I do for that. And I'm just like,
What if you like actually talk shit about him when you did that? And you're like,
yeah, what if like this is a waste of an hour and
Eric
a half? You
Eric
guys are
Bass
a
is a total
joke.
fucking asshole.
Yeah, these guys are
Sanctum,
about as fake as a $3 bill.
right.
But no, so I was doing that, and then I text you. I go like, at what point does science go too far? And then I started thinking the other day when I saw this article about we've only explored 5% of the world's oceans. So
Yeah.
again, 95% of the oceans have not been explored. Yet here we are going out into Mars, different galaxies, space. At what
Yeah.
point does science go too far, and why aren't we exploring the oceans? This is kind of why where I want to start this.
Yeah. I mean, you text me something last night. What did you text me last night? And that kind of sparked this.
Uh,
Hang on. I'm gonna look at our text conversation right
yeah,
here. I'll see what it was. It was
scientists.
yeah, so yeah, so you text me this thing. Uh it says Japanese scientists successfully created an MRI machine that can record your dreams and reconstruct them for you to watch while you're awake. And that's an actual headline. It's not like he didn't write that for me. That's what the headline says. And I think I text you back and I said, I think we're beginning to fuck with things we shouldn't be fucking with. And with it's on so many other levels too, man. Uh, I just feel like we're I don't know, man. I'll try not to take this into too much of a spiritual realm.
Are we
But
poking the
with
bear too much outside of
yes,
like what we should be poking?
yeah, I think so, man. I think that I think that I don't know if we're gonna like what we find.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like maybe we are meant to exist. So here we go. So sorry, I'm just kind of waking up. No, I've been awake, but I'm getting going here. So give me a second. Um, we oh shit, my train of thought just went away. Like what was I gonna say? Fuck.
I love it.
Uh oh no, this is great. This is perfect. This is you want real Eric Bass, this is it. Train of thought just gone
But to your point, like
completely.
I remember growing up, like when people would say, "Man, he's got a God-given talent," and so it's like I would always get that because I was a stupendous child athlete. But I
Oh
was just
yeah, for
like,
sure.
when you hear that, it's like I firmly believe that God created like whatever. What do you, I don't want to get too down like
Yeah,
you
man.
said, but I'm just
Yeah.
like, at what point does someone? And this kind of goes back to what the almost like the yin to the yang what we were talking about last week, with where'd all the scientists go? Well, what
Right.
if they were stopped because they were going too far?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this whole thing.
So I remember what I was going to say is that if you watch and again I don't know the scientist's name. Maybe we can flash it up on the screen after and like a link where you can find this guy after the episode. But he is uh, he's a theoretical physicist, and basically we've been taught throughout our lives that our brains are fundamental, right? Our brains are the genesis. If you're not thinking spiritually, I'm talking scientifically.
Yeah,
Kind of the atheist scientific model is that we evolved from we evolved from primates, and those primates evolved from whales or whatever, whatever, and that our brains are fundamental, and our brains uh take in information that we see around us, and our consciousness is a result of our brain. right? So that's
Right.
kind of what he means by our brains are fundamental. Well, what this guy is positing is that consciousness is fundamental, and consciousness has created consciousness is an entity, so to speak. That's not exactly what he's saying, but so to speak, consciousness is an entity and it's in all of us.
Yep.
And it creates a reality for us so that we can navigate our existence, but that we're not exactly seeing what the real world is. We're not seeing, um, we see what we need to see to function and to be able to navigate everything without losing our minds, if that makes sense.
So what
Right.
happens if we all start seeing? Is that the problem right now?
Right. So this is the thing. Like this is what I'm saying is like when we might not like what we find when we start digging into some things like you know, the dreamscape, who knows what that really is? I mean, look, I understand that there's science that says that it's just our uh again, I'll use this word, our what happens to our conscious mind when we're unconscious, right?
Right.
We're uh but again, what is consciousness, right? What is like is consciousness, how much of God is in consciousness, how much of, and again, if that doctor is correct and what he's saying is that we are uh we're basically being protected by consciousness from reality because we wouldn't be able to deal with actual reality. We're not complex enough to deal with actual reality.
Right.
Yet here we are peeling back things, peeling back
Layers
layers of things like, and are we going to like what we find when we get there? Or are we going to be able to deal with what we find when we get there? Is that what all these UFOs are about? Like they know the fucking deal. They know that we're not supposed to be seeing these things yet. I mean, if depending on how you read into it, there's records of UFOs showing up in biblical times and
Yeah, yeah. Aztec
in the
paintings,
1600s,
hieroglyphs.
1500, whatever. But they really started making themselves known to us in the modern world after we set off nuclear weapons. And I know we talked about some of that last
Yeah.
week. You know, maybe we were tearing the fabric of actual reality with those things, and we just don't know we're doing that or something. But the more we dig in, and the more we try to the more we toy with things, it seems like the more prevalent those things, the UFOs become, right? And I'm not.
Do you think we can be productive when we sleep, or are we productive? Like our bodies are at rest, right? But like,
Yeah,
what do
but
like
but
to your
our,
point? What do we? Where are our minds wandering and manifesting and stuff? Like, where's all that come into play?
what if we're dreaming right now, and when we're dreaming, it's actually the real
Right.
world?
That's what's
What
crazy
if
about
the
like there's
what if the dreams are part of that reality we can't handle?
our
You
dream
know?
has always been to have a podcast together, and we're never going to do
Yeah.
it because it's just a dream. It's like an MC Escher painting for our minds. Like it's
Yeah.
always we never know where exactly we're going up or down or.
Yeah, reality is God, what's like the weirdest dream that you've ever had that you can
I was
remember?
about to ask you, what was your childhood dreams that carried on as an adult? I've always been growing up. I think I was always afraid of like space. A lot of my dreams were like where I'm just like out there floating. And I think a
Mm,
lot of that was tied to growing up watching Aliens and Star Trek and Star Wars and just like the endless void of darkness. Now I wasn't ever afraid of the dark, but the idea of being in a space where there's no one else around. So maybe like isolation or like I don't, it's weird because I've always wanted to be live. I could live in a submarine. Like I love the idea of just being in a metal whatever. I love being alone.
we do that for a living.
Yeah, right. Hopefully not too deep. Uh but so I don't know, like, but as I got older, it became stuff became more violent. Like it just became like I have this recurring dream every couple months, or just an animal attacks me. It's
Mm,
not a it's not an actual like it doesn't look like anything. I mean, the closest thing I would describe it is like a werewolf, but it's not. It's
yeah.
almost like a
That maybe that's what you manifest it as when you wake up. Like again,
yeah,
it's like what if that dream is actually like your reality and you're being attacked by something that you can't even describe what it is. So
correct.
you have to tell people, well, it's sort of a werewolf, but it's not really a werewolf. Like because that's the closest thing earthly thing that you can find
Right.
to explain that, right? So you might be you might be seeing aliens like in your
Right, right.
dreams,
100%.
and you have no basis for basis of description of a way to tell people that I saw this. Like it's like trying to describe the color red to a blind person. I know that's a common
Yeah,
analogy, but it's like, so you just come up with the closest thing you can figure out,
right. The guy, it looks like a
so
raspberry. Well, I haven't seen a
yeah.
raspberry either. Well, god damn it. Yeah. At what point do scientists, though, as new stuff comes out, like to go back to this guy with the dreams, a handful of people probably know what this test is about, what it can do, what it actually shows.
Mhm.
Are we all of a sudden supposed to trust this guy or girl to be like, yeah, this guy can read dreams now? Like, at what point do we just kind of go back again to like our whole conspiracy thing? Like, it's okay for us to kind of question stuff, like
Right.
space. Like, you look through the Hubble telescope. Why am I supposed to believe that that's what that looks like? Six people can
Well,
change the
it's
outcome
not.
of this.
Well, that's a conspiracy, right? It's not really a conspiracy. It's sort of a a more based conspiracy
Yeah, like I'm
than
always
most.
wondering that stuff.
Is Well, the pictures you see from space aren't real pictures, right?
Right.
They're like there's never been. I'm I'm sure there's someone that can prove me wrong on this or right, but what my understanding is that when you see, how about this? This was the telling thing for me. Go into Google and pull uh, uh, 10 different pictures of the Earth, like the globe taken from space. Every single one of those images is different.
Correct.
The continents don't look right. They're
Right.
one thing
The
is bigger than
shapes are different.
another.
The
The shapes
spacing.
are right. And it's because we've no one has ever taken a high definition picture of the Earth ever. It's never happened. That is they're computer generated pictures. This is what we've had pictures of like when we were coming back from the moon, of actually how the Earth looks, right?
Yes.
But I'm talking high definition pictures of Earth, like that's a manipulated picture. Um,
Right.
it's you know,
It's AI. It's
well,
crazy.
and it's all, and like if you're talking about pictures of Mars is another one, right? You see all these pictures of
Correct.
Mars where the rovers are on Mars, and I believe they are, right? I think we have the capabilities to do that. Some people are like,
Yeah.
we never landed on the moon, we never went to Mars, blah blah blah. I don't go that far with
I
it. I
want to
do think
believe that
there's
we did because it's cool.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there seems to be a lot of human accomplishment wrapped up in that I would like to be proud of, but maybe we haven't. But the pictures of Mars that most people see are this red colored
Glowing.
landscape,
Yeah.
but those pictures have been color manipulated if you to look like that because that's what they people expect Mars to look like. So we're going to give you this picture of Mars and have it look the way you think it should look. Whereas you actually look at pictures of Mars and it's got blues in it and it's not this super red, the sky's not super red
Right.
like everybody, the sky's actually got it's got some, Mars has somewhat of an atmosphere, so it's got somewhat of a tint to the to the sky. And
And what's the planet that's all gas? Is that Jupiter?
Jupiter and
Saturn.
Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all gas.
So how like
Supposedly.
so to your point though, textbooks as a kid growing up, and then your parents and grandparents, these are the colors, this is what they look like. Who decided that initially? Like that's what's boggling my mind. Just for them to stand out individually. And if something's made of
Well,
gas, why is it always in a cylindrical shape? Like why
well,
can't
I
it
mean,
be
if you take sorry, say that one more time. If something's made of gas, why is it what?
like why is it if a planet or a mat is made of gas,
Yeah.
why is it always shown as a spherical object? Like why is gas
Well,
contained like that?
I think that if well, I mean,
Atmosphere, gravity.
what we know about zero G is if you take any sort of now I don't know about gas, but you take a liquid in zero
Yeah.
G and it automatically forms into a circular droplet. Everything, it all coalesces into a sphere. That's the natural state of
Right.
things, I
Got it.
think, in a vacuum, right? Is to bind to itself. Um, I don't know, and I'm sure there's someone listening to this podcast who's smarter than me that could let us know. I don't know if that happens with a gas, right? I would are those are the gas molecules going to bind together the same way that like a liquid does? I doubt it, because the liquid, what makes a liquid is the fact that it is bound to itself,
Yeah,
right? It's got mass and it's bound to itself. Gas doesn't necessarily have that mass. It's floating particles. So that's an interesting question. Why would a gas giant uh and to have the now I the mass of Jupiter is enormous, right? It keeps
correct.
us it's what keeps us from having meteor strikes and as often, and being hit by comets and things like that, because the Jupiter's gravity sucks all that stuff in
Right,
as it's coming toward the inner planets. Um, but you think about to have something have that much mass. I mean, that's the second largest. Excuse me, that's the second largest. I love burping on podcasts. It's like
yeah,
it's
it's
it's uh it's the second largest mass in our solar system, but beside the sun. And a lot of people some people, not a lot, some people have posited that perhaps maybe Jupiter was a failed star, right? It's got so
yep.
much mass, it just never ignited. It's got still got all the gaseousness, but it never maybe it didn't have
Never
enough
got that spark to just
to actually have to have a nuclear fusion or happen, you know uh so uh but it's interesting that it has as much mass as it does, but it's gas, right? That's
right.
odd.
It's very
Now,
odd.
but here's the thing: it's like, well, that's gravity, right? The more mass something has, the more the more gravity it has, right? So maybe that's probably what's pulling all of that
Right,
gas into itself, is just the mass of these things. Maybe it's impossible to have a gas planet the size of Earth. Maybe it doesn't have enough mass to keep the gas in,
right.
you know? So I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I say I guarantee you there's someone who's going to listen to this
Oh,
who's
there's some nerd that's probably on
way
Jupiter right
smarter
now
way
going,
smarter than you and me that
yeah,
can tell us the definite of that. That's what I would think. If I as I was saying it, I'm sort of uh processing it as I'm talking, but yeah, it would seem that you know uh now it's interesting though, man. Why does that gas coalesce in the first place into a planet?
right.
And
What's
and each planet maybe has a different gaseous makeup, right? It's like it's how much hydrogen does it have? How much oxygen does it have? How
if that even
much?
exists in that area?
Yeah. Oxygen does not exist.
Well, who? I mean, what? I mean, how do? It's so fascinating to me. Science is such a cool. Like, I'm trying to think of like what's a definitive
Yeah.
thing a scientist has put out there where you're kind of like, this will never not be proven wrong. Like, has there ever been like a famous equation like E equals MC squared that years down the road, like 2 years ago, someone's like, actually, this is what really happens. Like, is that
Oh,
ever?
you mean proven equations wrong?
Yeah. Like, how
Yeah,
often
yeah,
does
yeah.
that happen?
I believe it was Einstein's uh his first theory was it wasn't special relativity. I'm so bad, my memory's so bad. His first paper that he wrote that got traction got all sorts of holes poked in it, and he had to pull back and go, I was wrong about this, and this. And that's what led, I believe, to his theory of special relativity, which
Got
is
it.
what we know today. But that he had to refine it. He put it out there before it was. But that's what's great about peer-reviewed science. Like that's how peer-reviewed science is supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
Is
Not get
is
mad.
that's that's what makes science
Yeah.
is you put forth your theory, you put forth uh your product, your uh pill or your vaccine or whatever it is, and you let people poke holes in it. You want people to poke holes in it because that's what is going to either prove that it works or prove that it doesn't work or prove that you're right or wrong, um, and send you back to the drawing board, perhaps.
Yep.
So yeah, man, that stuff happens all the time. But I mean, I think maybe what you're asking is like, like concrete theories that
Right.
we have that
Like,
we
I
have
wonder
like
how. So people are like, oh, this is what gravity is. How many entities, scientists, whoever, are working on something right now where it's like, no, this is not. This is not what gravity is. This is not what mass equal. Like, so stuff like that, where you're kind of like, how once you get a definitive answer on something, does the testing and work around that thing stop? But now that becomes a building block to further push another learning, another understanding of something
Well, that
else.
that has to happen. I think that's the
You can't jump
that
ahead,
is
right? You need one part to go to another part to another part.
yeah, man. And I think what you're describing is the natural state of things anyway, which is we're living by right now what we think we know, right? And that's all we have to go on is the thing that and also the things we have proven, but maybe we didn't have all of the information when those things were
Right.
proven, right? So we're living our lives by this. Look, this goes back to where all the or do we have physics going on that we don't know about, right?
Right.
If
Right.
you go by Einstein's theories, it's impossible for anything to travel faster than the speed of light. And the reason for that being is the faster that object moves through space, the more mass it gains because it starts occupying more space. You
Right.
know, you're traveling at the speed of light. So it's gaining mass as it's getting closer to the speed of light. And eventually it's going to get so big that whatever propulsion system that it has can't push that much mass any faster. So you're never going to get to the speed of light. But we're filming things that are granted we're not seeing them travel at the speed of light, but we're seeing things violate the laws of known physics, right? uh things going under the water and traveling just as fast as they're traveling in air. Well, you know friction would tell you that's impossible, but we're watching it happen.
Right.
So is there has someone already disproven Einstein's
Right.
math, his theories? uh uh has someone already disproven those, and we just don't know it. That maybe there is physics going on that we don't know about. But back to the point about science pushing too far. It is in our nature to be curious. I mean, we're going to be curious, and
Yeah.
that's what we've done. That's what we've
Exploration
done.
and asking
I
questions and
Right. Uh, but is there a divine threshold that we are not supposed to cross?
correct.
Meaning, has God decided, or there, or does it not even go that far? Like God is way up the food chain on that thing, but there is a threshold that we're not supposed to. There's a curtain we're not supposed to look behind,
Yeah.
and the minute that we look behind that curtain, uh, there's no going back,
Yeah.
and we find answers to questions that we, again, back to the world around us that we're supposed to ingest, that we're not prepared or capable of understanding. And you know that is the thing for me. It's like, and maybe I was gonna say, and I think I'm wrong, but I was going to say that every time that there's a scientific discovery or a scientific explanation for something, a little bit of magic dies, a little bit of wonder dies, because you're given a reason for something that seemed magical
Yeah.
before. And I don't know if I want to live in that world where it's like everything is there's no wonder left because we have figured. And I've said this before. I've said I want to know what reality actually is. Like I feel like I can handle the truth, right?
Yeah.
Of but listen to what I just
The
said,
masses can't.
Yeah, but well, I'm not saying I couldn't handle hearing it, but do I want to live in that world? Again, do I want to be do I want to be the one that knows too much? It's Men in
Yeah.
Black. It's Men in Black when when Will Smith asked Tommy Lee Jones, he says, "Is it worth it?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's worth it if you're strong enough." You know,
Yeah.
and because they in that movie they know more than everyone else around them, and they live in a different reality than the rest of the world. And I'm sure I have a feeling, I can't say I'm sure. I have a really strong feeling that there are people living on this planet who know more than the rest of the planet about some of this stuff.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I have a feeling that they wish that they didn't, but I could be
Or
wrong.
maybe they want to. It's like the movie They Live, the Roddy Piper, Keith David, where they put the glasses on. He's even trying to convince people, hey, put these on, you're gonna see what's really going on in the world. And people are just so ignorant to, this is my world. There's nothing different out there. There's nothing outside, nothing nefarious. It's
Yeah.
just such a like. I wonder if do they go to bed? Those people go to bed at night where it's like they want to inform people, but they can't. And maybe that's the weight on their shoulders that they just can't shake.
Yeah. I mean, I I mean, what a there's already that burden on people. I already have, and well, John, I can put you in this group. You know, you already have secrets and clearance stuff that you can't talk to me about. Things that
Right.
you know, things that you
Right.
know about our country or about the way our politics work or whatever, just from your former employment, that you have to hang on to, and
Right.
you can't talk. There might be one or two people that you can talk to about it, but there's no one else you can talk to about it.
Right.
I've got other friends who uh, have held really, really high clearances. And the comment has been made to me by them in the past that is, you think you want to know everything until you know everything.
Right.
And these people have like really bad PTSD problems
Yeah. Yeah.
and are have a rough time of it because they are read in on things or have knowledge of things that they wish they didn't have knowledge of, and it's ignorance is bliss. I mean, that's the you and I talk about this a lot, where you look around at society and at sometimes it you know, I cannot figure out for the life of me why anyone spends their time watching the Kardashians
Right.
or is caught up in Jersey Shore reality show, and it's like they love, like, but then I listen to what we're talking about and I'm like, oh, well, and I think I talked about this on the last episode too, where well, maybe I didn't, but uh, I don't know who it was that said this. If it was, I don't know who to attribute it to, but that um, the ultimate, like misery is living in your own mind,
Yeah.
you know. And so I spend a lot of time in my own mind, and I spend a lot of time thinking about stuff you and I are talking about, rather than just not giving a shit about it, about what I consider important stuff, and just jumping headfirst into the newest season of Jersey Shore that's about to come out, and when is the next iPhone going to be released, and where's my McDonald's?
Right.
Um, but man,
I
I'm
wonder what
thinking
the
of
suicide rate or like the stats behind people with top secret or SIC.
oh, it's
So
probably
I'd be
enormous.
curious what the study is like. To your point, the weight of that. The people that deal with bad can't deal with bad news, whether it's can't pay for my car that broke down or my house flooded, I
Mhm.
can't pay for this. They already have worse thoughts in their head, like "fuck, my life's over. I can't. I'm an idiot. Like there's no way to escape this."
Yeah.
The people that know this stuff is coming, whether there is the sun's dying, a new disease X is coming, whatever it is, this crazy stuff that could possibly be happening that they can't really tell anyone about to prepare for. That must like grind you to your bones, knowing.
So this is my sorry, John, I didn't let
Oh
you
yeah, no,
finish.
go ahead. Yeah, no, for
This is my theory on conspiracy theories, though, and I've talked about this, is conspiracy theories are great, meaning I can believe a conspiracy theory. You can put all these coincidences that seemingly coincidental things together and have me wondering, man, that's really compelling. That the moon landing, just take the like moon
right.
landing's an easy one because it doesn't have any, like, you talk about 9/11 too in that way. Uh, but that one hits home a little too hard for people. Let's talk about the moon landing. Man, it's compelling when people start putting forth stuff about the Van Allen belt, this belt of radiation that's around the
Yeah,
Earth that humans can't go through or they'll die. So there's no way that anyone went to the moon and back, right? Or that if you look at the pictures from the moon, that the same mountains are in the background of all these different landing sites, and they look like the same background was used. um, you have Buzz Aldrin saying that, oh, you weren't watching us on the moon. You were watching uh, a reimagining of us on the moon.
right.
Which actually, if you think about Kubrick, and maybe that's what he was doing, I still do find it hard to believe that we were sending live pictures from the moon. I don't know about that. I'm not saying that the people weren't there, but that's so I can buy some of this stuff.
Yeah,
But here's my problem with conspiracy theories is you have to convince a lot of people to shut the fuck up, right? You have to convince a lot of people to carry the weight of a lie, which is, as far as I'm concerned, carrying around the weight of a lie. Like if you've lied about something to someone,
Yeah, I mean that's
And that lie keeps compounding because you have to
yeah,
keep change. You have to remember. I always say, you if you never tell a lie, you never have to remember a story. And it just if you just don't lie about something, you don't have to weave together things that don't belong together.
right.
And then remember what you lied about yesterday, so you can continue to lie today. And then 2 weeks from now, remember what you lied about over the last 2 weeks to hold it up. You'd have to so think about all the people involved in the Apollo missions. You know, all the people reading telemetry and building the machines and yeah, all of that. The hundreds and probably thousands of people, probably hundreds of people in the know, thousands of people working on these things. You would have to convince all of them to go along with the lie just because, and if you look at these people who worked on these projects, it's not like they all of a sudden were like paid off like millionaires, like, hey, if you shut up, we'll give you $50 million to go disappear somewhere,
Right.
and never talk about this ever
But
again.
what if
There's
they're
been no
working? What if they really are working on these projects, but they're
there's,
just the distraction, the red herring to what really is going on?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's possible, I guess. But now you're saying, well, so okay, so the people working on the red herring then, or rather the people working on the actual project rather than the red herring
Right.
project, right? Uh, you know, again, you're still going to have it would have to be hundreds of people to launch a rocket into space and that know that, by the way, this thing's not really going to the moon. It's just going to orbit up there for a few days and come back,
But
you
how? So
know?
the people that are on the ground, they necessarily might not need to know. You got to get. Well, still to your point, you got a crew of astronauts who have families and families and families and friends. It's like, what are you giving them outside of saying, "Hey, you landed on the moon," to shut up and not actually say what
And
really
and
happened?
and I'll go a step further with that. You've got dead astronauts who
Correct.
died in the pursuit of this thing in Apollo 1 who
Challenger. Yeah.
burned to death in a capsule, right?
Right.
Their friends and their brothers and like imagine that uh imagine if Shinedown was a complete lie. Like there was no band, there was no nothing. It was just
Yeah.
all avatars we put out there. But uh just hypothetically, Sanjay, Kent, and Charlie all burned to death uh, in the pursuit of putting this avatar on, you know, that's completely fake, right? Don't you think that we would be really pissed about that?
Yeah. No.
Maybe it's a bad analogy. But these other astronauts who know they're not going to the moon, I'm just saying in quotes, if the conspiracy theories are right, these people know that they're not ever going to the moon, right? They're going to know what the real deal is. But they had three friends that gave their lives for a hoax. Like, I don't think they could shut up about that. Like, I
Right.
wouldn't be able to shut up about that. Not to mention probably all the other people who passed away that we don't know about, or that gave their lives or gave you know, gave everything they had to this thing.
No. 100%. The people
And
that
so,
taught the courses, the people that it's.
yeah, why are these guys spending
But to your point though, none of these people are
hours
like
upon hours
millionaires.
upon hours upon
Right.
hours upon hours in a simulator,
Why would they do this for
days,
free?
days and days in a
Yeah.
simulator trying to figure out how to do something they're never going to do? It doesn't make any sense. So I guess my point is, uh, uh, you know, some of these large conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
that are out there, I would think that the people that were hanging on to those lies wouldn't be able to hang on to them.
Right.
They'd off themselves, or they
Because
would
there's never been a deathbed confession from a NASA type person, right?
no.
High up.
The only deathbed confessions that are interesting from NASA, and I don't know if they're deathbed necessarily, but some of the astronauts talking about the weird shit they saw out there
Yes.
on the moon, like weird stuff they saw on the moon,
Yeah.
right? And some of that stuff is a little cloudy. Like there's no, I don't know how much of it's hearsay, but you hear about Edgar, what's his name? Edgar,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was one of the last astronauts on the moon. But he's like, I mean, he joined MUFON, I believe, the Mutual UFO Network.
Edgar Mitchell.
Like Edgar Mitchell. Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. Um, he was very much about the fact that we're not alone.
Well,
You
he
know,
actually, when he retired from NASA, I'm looking at the thing right now. When he retired from NASA, he actually became a full blown ufologist.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
MUFON, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Mutual UFO Network. That's what he.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that
So
so
his last YouTube video in 2016 was, I'm gonna tell you a story. What is consciousness? That's wild.
yeah. So back to our friend Dr. Greer.
Yeah.
Dr. Greer sat with Dr. Stephen Greer. If you didn't watch the last episode and you don't know who he is, he his claim to fame and you know, what he posits, and I believe him. It's again hard to keep
Why
a
would you
lie
put
up of
yourself
it,
out there to be death
but
threats and ridiculed?
right.
It's like crazy,
But
right?
but his thing is that he briefs and has briefed presidents and heads of CIA on extraterrestrials. Like he's the one that goes and talks to him and goes, "Here's
Yeah.
what the real story is," right? And I remember sitting in the back lounge of the bus with him talking about, how do these things travel? Like meaning if you've got an interdimensional being, or you've got, because yes, that's the thing. Some of these are interdimensional. Some of them are interplanetary. It's not just a one size fits all thing, where it's just all aliens, right? Well, maybe it is alien, but it's interdimensional versus, along with interplanetary. But uh, the how are they all getting here, right? It is really like, even if you're traveling faster than the speed of light, right? It's like you're going to be eons getting here. And why here, right? It's like, so
Yeah.
he says what's the only thing that we know of that is not bound by any laws of physics at all? And I'm like, of course I'm a dullard, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, consciousness. He goes, that's how we can meditate, and meaning the people in Dr. Greer has a thing called a protocol called CE5, where you can literally meditate,
Yeah.
and he posits that you can meditate and call in UFOs. He does these retreats where they go out in the desert and they literally call UFOs in,
Yeah. Outside
and lights and
Phoenix.
beings. Yeah.
Yep.
But he's talking about consciousness being the ultimate form of travel, and you can go anywhere, you can do anything. Um, you know, it's what you were told with reading Rainbow, right? You can put
Yeah.
yourself anywhere if your imagination. That's what
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Your imagination can put you in any scenario and put you anywhere. So, uh, that's interesting that I haven't seen that video about him talking about consciousness, but it tracks, man. It really does. And look, something is and back to Greer's point. He goes and I was kind of asking him to expound on what he had said, and he goes, well, like when you think about a friend of yours and they call you on the phone, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and, and
Yeah.
he's like that.
Hey, I was
He
just about
goes,
to call you, just about to text you, and then that text will come like, holy shit.
how many times, all
Yes.
of us, how many times have all of us thought about someone and they call, or they text, or you you're thinking about a yellow car and then you see a yellow car,
Yep.
or that's an abstract way of thinking about it, but with the car analogy. But I I mean that stuff is real, man. Like
Have
my
you ever
my
been in a situation where you're writing a song where you or Brand, whoever you're writing with, you're both writing lyrics and stuff, but then you come is there ever a point where you kind of like you look at each other's lyrics and be like, holy shit, we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah, we've definitely had it's crazy, man. I've not so much that where we're writing the same things down, but we'll have it where you'll maybe go, "Well, what if it's blah 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 da 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 da," and you go, man, I was just thinking that. Like that happens, right? Like we're like, yeah, again, we talked about this on the last episode where you're a conduit. I mean that stuff's not. It's crazy how like all of this stuff that we're talking about for me seemed woo woo and out there, when I was younger. And the
Right.
older I get, the more it makes sense. The more it makes sense that, yeah, I'm not writing a song. I am allowing something else to write a song, you know?
Right.
And I just so anyway, that consciousness thing of like trying to connect, it's what prayer is. When I'm praying, man, when I'm praying for someone or something, uh, or I'm praying for gratitude or whatever, I mean, I am, I'm thinking about that, man. I'm entering into a state of mind that is um, a different consciousness, right? It is a different form of consciousness
Yep.
where I'm entering this space where I'm trying to reach people. If I have a friend who's ill, or I do this all the time, like if I'm watching a football game and I see especially college, man, I see a kid like get a really serious injury,
Yeah.
like really, and they cut away, they'll cut away when something's really bad, like if someone gets a neck injury or breaks their leg in half or something like that. Uh, and I will, I just do this, man. People might think it's weird, but like I'll start praying for that person, for that kid, who's hurt.
To your point,
Um,
remember last year, Damar Hamlin? That was the
yeah,
first time at a sporting event at a national level, even global then, where people on air were openly praying.
yeah,
It was such a, to your point, where it's like manifesting good vibes for this kid.
right. And we are, and look, man, I think one of the most interesting studies that's been done, and I'm going to get the details of this wrong, but I encourage you to look it up. When it comes to humans, when it comes to consciousness and sort of the global consciousness knowing that something is about to happen, or there's this
Yeah.
even before it happened. So I believe it was 9/11 where there was a random number generator that uh it just ticks off random numbers, right? And uh this is why it's so bad to get your information from a podcast like this one. There was something to do with the random number generator and people trying to make numbers show up, right?
Yeah.
So it's a random number generator, but they had people kind of trained on it, thinking about it, trying to make numbers show up. And but it would just be random. 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 And I believe a day or 2 days before 9/11, like that random number generator did something completely impossible. Like it spit out numbers that weren't random. Like something was in the air that something was going to take place. That's a terrible description of it.
Yeah.
But the fact that there is a metaphysical thing happening, um, there's a graph too that you can look at having to do with uh, um, something about the phone calls people made or something, or something having to do with human behavior changed a couple of days before 9/11,
Right.
right? Before this global event. Because if you think about it, that's the first global event. Like, and I know we consider the United States being, and maybe that sounds a little. I'm not trying to say the United States is the center of the globe. I'm just
No,
saying,
but
like,
it's everyone looks to
like
the United States as for
it's
answers.
it's the first real global type event that we had happen when we had technology to track things like this, you know? And so,
Yes.
uh, and we've had those types of events happen since, like COVID. And I wouldn't doubt it if, now COVID came on slower, so I don't know if you get the same type of data, but we have data that suggests, and you can look it up on YouTube. I suggest you look it up since I probably got it all wrong. But we have data using this random number generator and also this graph of people's behavior, whether it was had something to do with phone calls and how often they were calling each other or something. Um, because we did have cell phones at that point. So, but there was a spike in activity and a difference in those two areas just before. So there is this consciousness of maybe knowing, and I mean, look, just to get even crazier, this might play into the thing about how time isn't linear, right? Time is
Yep.
everything that's happening
Already happened.
where I'm sitting in this room, everything that has ever happened in this space
It's already
and
happened.
ever will happen in this space has already happened, and it's happened all at one time. So it's layers, right? So maybe, you get this feeling of like, well, in this space that I'm in, something is about to take place. You're feeling it about to happen. Like if you've ever been to the beach and when a wave's coming in, you get pulled out before the wave hits.
Right.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like something like that. Like we're getting pulled away and we feel something is about to happen. And our conscious and unconscious minds have a way of like knowing that wave is about to happen. And uh yeah, I don't know. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But again, man, back to like these are things these are real curiosities, but think to yourself, it's like, is it better to not know about any of that stuff, than it is to actually know? Again, so let's hypothesize that, just hypothesize, not saying it is, hypothesize that 9/11 was an inside job, right?
Yeah.
That that uh our
Which a lot of people have.
entities within our government
Yeah.
decided to do that to get us into a war for oil and push a globalist agenda and whatever. And there are a lot of weird things with it, man. There's a lot. I think the weirdest things for me are not. It's not all the the airplane, the stuff about the airlines and the stuff about. It's the stuff about the.
Tower 7 falling down.
That's weird, right? It's very
That
weird.
had all the money and like all the trillions of dollars that went missing they're looking for or
Yeah.
whatever.
Or the fact that they reported that it had fallen and then it fell
Correct.
2 hours later.
Right.
Right. That's weird. But let's hypothesize. I don't want to go down that road because
Yeah,
there are a
yeah.
lot of people that have super strong feelings about that, and people have loved ones that passed away, and I don't want to get into that. But hypothetically, say that you knew that 9/11, that your country had committed an atrocity like that against itself
Right.
to
Now
uh
the negative energy that would manifest.
right. But just say that's the case. Like, do you want to know that? Do you want to know that, or would you rather, like, again, it goes back to, well, I want to know what reality is. Well, do you? Do you really want to know what reality is? Do you really want to know how the sausage is made? You know,
Yeah, no, to your
uh,
point, I think for me, it's like the people say the people, and I want to say this in a way that doesn't obviously piss people off or alienate certain people, but when you, I get tired of the fact that no matter what side you're on,
mhm.
if there's a large, say, maybe not majority, but say there's 45% of the group that believes that there's something else going on here and doesn't believe whatever's being told to them, don't they have a right, or should they have the option to know what's really going on? Because instead, that size, the majority of whoever opposes whatever idea they're thinking, can ridicule them, call them crazy, call them conspiracy theorists, call them idiots, call them losers.
Oh, do they have a,
That's their out. That's their escape to tell people, hey, think all the crazy shit you want. It's not true. You're nowhere near what's going on. Like that's where I just kind of get like, do people deserve to know the truth? Yes.
yes,
Should they
absolutely.
handle it?
Yeah.
Can they handle it? That's I get to your point. That's the
Well,
question.
but the problem is what is the truth? So
Right.
like people can like what was it? The truth is,
There is a
I think
truth.
I think the truth is vital, right?
Right.
It's what they say, the three sides to every story, your side, my side, and the truth, right?
Right.
The actual truth of what happens is so, yes, it is objective because it is the truth, but you're looking at it from a subjective, through a
Right.
subjective lens. So getting to the actual truth of something, like this is actually the actual absolute truth, I don't know if that's possible, right?
And it's weird 'cause it should be like a
No, no, no.
straight line.
It's not possible. It's not impossible for it to exist. It's impossible for us to see it as the
Right.
absolute truth. Um, but well, it's this, John. It's like, look, uh, I don't want to get too specific about what I'm talking about, but uh, it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they've been fooled,
Yeah.
right? Like it's easier to just tell people a lie and perpetuate that lie than it is to convince them that someone has lied to them.
Yeah.
They don't want to believe that, right? In their heart. Um,
It's the wolf game. The informed
right.
minority will always win against the uninformed majority.
Majority. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and John can fill everyone in on what the wolf game
I
is.
posted it on our social
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Instagram
yeah.
page. And
Yeah.
people are like, it's such a unique study where it's like, yeah, it's a game, but like the comments, people are like, holy fuck, like I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But it's perfect.
So it's all you need is an informed minority, meaning a government,
Yeah.
right? A minority of people. And I consider an entity when not to be conspiratorial, right? So like we're talking about conspiracy theories and people having to keep their mouths shut
Yeah.
about conspiracies that happened, and it involves civilians keeping their mouths shut and whatever. If you've got a situation, an internal organization, meaning it's airtight, everyone inside this organization is going to benefit from whatever lie we put forward, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a globalist agenda or it's uh, a few members of Congress and a few members of a deep state, and the president doesn't even have to know, right? But they're going to drive something that is different than a conspiracy. So the people inside of that perpetuating that, I believe they absolutely can keep their mouths shut because it's what they want, right? They're driving towards something they absolutely want to have happen.
Yeah.
And so you can have an informed an informed minority of people who have an agenda, who also control how the information is disseminated, which is what we have now, right? You know, any of you who think that the news is objective, like if you're watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox or any of those they're all
Stop.
owned by the same companies,
Yes.
and they're all funded, advertising dollars funded by pharmaceutical companies
Of course.
and big tech companies. And so they only say on the news what those people want them to say. They're also funded by the government. Well, they're pretty much owned and say owned, but tracked by the government, right?
Yeah.
So you're only getting the information that the wealthy people want you to get so they can become more wealthy, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? And so they can turn us against each other. They can unite us. They can manipulate us. So this is where the distrust comes from. The distrust of you were talking about, do people have a right to know the truth? Yeah, I feel like everyone has the right to know the truth, but this is why it's so difficult to see what the actual truth is.
Yeah.
If I hear something on the news, I automatically assume that it's either a lie or it is the truth with an agenda.
It's the truth. The version of the truth they're gonna tell us.
Right. So I automatically view things through a weird lens anyway. And then I want to dig in and find out what is actually there. Well, then you have to dig through all of the incorrect minutia and separate it from the correct minutia, and try to figure out what the actual truth is, the truth,
Right.
and that's why I don't like the terms like my truth is this and my truth is that. And it's like just substitute truth with experience. My experience is this, my experience is that. Truth is truth. I like to think that the truth is the truth, but so yeah, I mean it's so easy to manipulate people. And so back to the science stuff, man. So what in science have we been manipulated to believe that may or may not be true? Or and so
It's a big
and
one right
again
now.
and again there are people digging into to try to find the truth, and maybe they're finding some stuff they wish they hadn't found. So sorry, I love burping on podcasts.
It's big.
It's the best.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah. So Connie, our good friend at CERN, right, at the Hadron Collider. Like, I love Connie. I try not to get too conspiratorial about CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. If anybody wants to go down that rabbit hole,
I'll message her on WhatsApp and I'll be like, "Hey, I just read this article about this ritualistic thing outside the statue of Shiva." She goes, "John, I'm gonna mute you."
But here's the thing: like a lot of people talk about how there is a huge spiritual element at CERN, right?
Correct.
CERN is
the God particle, the Higgs boson. I mean, that's
so the for anyone who doesn't know, I'm assuming everyone here is intelligent, but I'm just filling it in case
except
people don't know.
us.
Yeah, I didn't say I was intelligent.
Yeah, everyone listening.
Yeah, they're all smarter than us.
Maybe you're really dumb for listening.
You and I are the only two that actually speak this language, whatever this is, and everyone else is just listening to us mumble, laughing at us.
Could you imagine if we were the last two people on Earth, and this is like we're trying to find other survivors, and like this is the broadcast that goes out to like other people. They're like, dude, I don't want them to find us. We're fucked.
We're gonna
This is our hope and salvation, John and Eric.
danger, danger. Yeah, for sure. Um, but CERN, the Hadron Collider, is a basically a particle collider that is in a ring, a loop that is, what is it, 26 miles, I believe,
Yes,
26 miles in diameter, and it goes through France into Switzerland back into France. So it's a very large, but it's underground, and they take particles and collide them together. So they send one particle this direction, or one group of particles this direction, one group of particles this direction, and they have four different experiments around the ring and around the large ring. And where those experiments are is where they can watch certain particles flying at each other at, close to the speed of light. It's not the speed of light again, but uh, and they collide with each other. And when they collide, they break off into their component parts, basically. And so we're looking to see what these particles are made of. And so the Higgs boson particle was a big deal. They call it the God particle. It's the one
yeah,
they were looking for, and they think that that particle is the genesis of everything. And um, the building block, the building block of everything around us. And they found that, right? They found this thing they're looking for. Now, I don't know if I believe that that's what it is, but yeah, I don't think
yeah,
God is wrapped up in a particle. But that would be interesting. I mean, it's possible, right? I mean,
yeah.
God could be like, we in our minds we think of God as this all large being, but maybe God is physically very
Right.
small, but everywhere spiritually, right? Uh, and so there have been reports coming in about lately about how uh, weird reports, but reports about how, like, these fears that they've opened up, like, the spiritual world, in colliding these parts. One of the fears about the Hadron Collider is that it's forming black holes. Like, it's like you're forming
Right.
these microscopic black holes. Well, what's keeping those microscopic black holes from opening up into bigger black holes? There's also the is it the 2012 theory or the 2021 theory? I forget what it is, that uh that the Hadron Collider did open up a black hole, and now we're in the black hole, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's why reality's gotten so
Portal
weird.
opened up. We all got
Yeah.
sucked in.
So we're all sitting in a portal somewhere instead of sitting in space like we were. Um, but I mean,
But think of that,
like,
like to your point, people that work at like say CERN, uh, NASA, people like where it's like the big science minds and exploration of what we don't know yet. How many people would have to be in the know to be like, oh yeah, this is what's really happening, but we can't tell people. We'll just call them, oh, you're conspiracy theorists. Like, oh, we're not doing that. Like,
I'm sure you could probably look it up right now. I'm sure there's a number that someone has come up with. How many people is
I
too
mean, you just
many?
can't go in there off the street. Like, we have
How,
to get background checked and stuff. Like, you
yeah.
can't like no one. You have to know someone to get in there and like start doing that stuff. So it's like clearly there's. I don't know. It's. I love the science of it, but I'm also curious. Every time I think, like when I first heard about CERN years ago, I read an article. All portals opened up, and then I started going to the rabbit hole of Shiva and like all this stuff. It's
Yeah.
the symbolism of what's there, and some of the stuff and what this
Yeah,
stuff represents.
there's a weird statue of Shiva,
The god of death, the god
the
of
god
war.
of, yeah, god of war. And there's also video of somebody, I don't know who it is, performing some ritual
Yeah,
at the
they said it was
statue.
fake, and they said it was all.
Yeah.
But the fact that's happening, that comes. I want to believe that maybe not want to believe, but I think when someone comes out and is like, oh, they're opening portals, someone does someone inherently just throw that idea out there and hopefully it sticks and they're famous for making that claim, or is it inherently based in some sort of truth?
Well, I think that again, you're at a quantum level. I guess it's at a quantum level, or an atomic level at least, right? It would be
Yeah,
an atomic level, probably more than probably a little, I don't know. I guess it would be an atomic level. You are, meaning the size is not
yeah,
quantum as being smaller, atomic being still very small, but bigger. You are breaking apart particles that aren't meant to be broken apart, I guess. Right? You're causing these collisions that aren't natural
Right.
to try to learn something. Again, back to the thing, man. You're maybe peeling back layers you're not supposed to peel back. We're not meant to know. Like you're trying to peel back the layers of actual reality,
Yes.
you know? And so I don't know if what was your question again? What were you asking?
Sorry, I got sucked into a portal. No, it's like at what point, like when someone says, "Hey, that thing opens up portals," or uh,
Oh, are they like is it just are they just wanting to
are they
become
just
famous
saying
by
something?
saying, yeah?
Hopefully, it sticks, and the masses can click their
Well,
YouTube
well
videos, and
right. That now I remember
or is it stooped or steeped in
we're stooped.
a version of the truth that they inherently believe is actually what the cause of the stuff is doing?
Well, I think that I would say that what they're putting forth is theoretically possible,
Right,
right? And if you think about scientists and science, so much of science is theoretical. Like it's all putting theories forward and hoping you're right or hoping that you're wrong.
right.
Uh, and you're basically just throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. Um,
Now, what I just
I
realized, we
what's
next
that?
ep you can't do it this episode because it's too crazy. But next time we have to talk about the Mount St. Helens eruption with the
Oh yeah.
Bigfoot stuff.
Oh yeah. That's weird.
Yeah,
Weird
sorry, I
stuff.
just remember that. I'm like, there's something else we always talk about.
Weird Bigfoot Mount St. Helens
Yeah,
stuff. Um, but I mean, this is the Mandela effect, right? Like
yep,
people talking about how all of us they remember things a certain way, but they're not that now they're not that way.
yep.
And some of that stuff can be explained. I mean, I'm not there's
What's
I'm
the
trying.
Star Wars one for reference for people that don't understand? Luke, I am your. What's it?
Oh yeah, so like everyone thinks that Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father," because that's what everybody said, "Luke, I am your father." And he doesn't say that. He says, "No, I am your father." Right?
Yeah,
Um, I remember this is the one for me. This is the one that is again, uh, I could swear to you that this is what it was, but I distinctly remember eating Jiffy peanut butter when I was a kid. Jiffy, Jiffy. I was born in the 70s, so like the 70s, early 80s.
yeah,
It never existed. It's just Jif peanut butter, JIF. I swear to you that I remember Jiffy peanut butter, and it came in these little. Back in the day, we had like smaller people.
yeah.
People were in this little smaller
People
jar,
were as slobs. Yep.
glass jar of peanut butter. I remember it saying Jiffy, but it was the same type of logo as the Jif logo, but it said
Yeah, I
Jiffy.
picture the colors now. See, I always picture there was a Y on there.
It's not though, and so people are like, well, they're getting Skippy mixed with Jif and blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, I remember advertisements for that, uh, and the other one is the biggest one that people talk about is the Berenstain Bears, right?
Yes, yeah,
And I remember it just I guess it's just what you remember. Some people remember Berenstein,
yeah.
Stein, or yeah, and but it's actually if you see it, it's Berenstain, Stain, Berenstain
Who
Bears,
wrote Richard Scarry? I
and
think wrote those books. Yeah,
and I mean, there's some videos out there, some guy, and I'm sure it's CGI, but he's taking the book in and out of a room, and he's like, as he goes into the room, it changes to Berenstain, and as he comes out of the room, it changes to
yeah.
Berenstein on the. You
But
can
they're kind
find
of
that
like,
YouTube video.
what if all that stuff actually did happen, but just a parallel universe? We've already
Well,
kind of
so this is, who knows, man? Again, we are back to science going too far, right? It's you can go as far as you want to go. It's just, uh, I think you have to be self-aware enough to know as a scientist that when you've gone to a place, maybe, and I don't know if any of them gotten there. All the stuff we're talking about is completely hypothetical. But I think if I were a scientist and I arrived at a place where I had information or I had opened a portal to something or I had uh, gotten into people's dreams only to realize that the dreams are reality and and reality is the dream or whatever, I would have to seriously step back and look at humanity and go, am I going to benefit humanity by telling them about this, or am I going to ruin humanity by telling people about this? And I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think I would have to think about future generations, right? The only the only ruining of humanity you would do would be to the current crop of people who that's all they ever knew was that was this reality, right? Or
Right.
whatever this is. Going forward, I think I would think for the next generation of people that if I were one of those people, I would want to grow up in the real world, maybe. I'm not saying it would be better. It's the
Yeah.
Matrix, right? Are you better off in the Matrix or out of the Matrix? You know?
What
And
Matrix?
and that's again, that's subjective, right? Morpheus was better off out of the Matrix, but Cypher liked being in the Matrix.
Yeah.
He liked the steak, eating steak dinners and just being in the real world.
Right.
And I think about me, and I'm like, as much as I say I want to know what the real world is, I say I want to know what the real world is. I didn't say I want to live in the real world. you know? Um, I don't know. I would think that it would be maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong, man. Maybe it is the duty of the scientist to inform everyone and to keep peeling back layers because it's not about it's not about us here now. It's about who's going to inherit this place from us and this existence from us and this reality from us or not reality from us. And like and I mean here's the other thing to think about. Maybe our ultimate power resides in that other reality that we're not experiencing and we're being kept in you know in this place,
Yeah.
where we are. Bob Lazar says that when when that there is a he said this back in the 80s. He said that there was a top secret document that he had to sign off on in order to get clearance that had to do with spirituality and religion. And it was like this thick. And he didn't want to talk about it at first. And uh what's his name? George I want to say Nori, but it's not George Nori. It's the other George that works with Jeremy Corbell. Um, but he was interviewing him and he said, "I know your trepidation about it, but tell me, what did the document say?" And he goes, "Basically that we're containers, like humans are
Yeah.
containers.
Just
Like
vessels for
he's like I don't know, we're containers of souls or containers of whatever. We're just containers." And it's like you know maybe we're not supposed to know, we're not supposed to know what reality is. We're not supposed to know who we really are. That's another thing, man. Like there's reports of and I forget where I heard this as well. I apologize for not being able to cite my sources, but uh these someone uh said that they had uh, a mind meld with an alien at some point, right? Like it's like some government person. They were in a room with a being
Yep.
that had been captured. And the he's like, the thing that I got from this being was that it was sad. It had all this sadness. And it was sad because it was captured, but he's like, the other sadness the thing that came through from it is that uh that he felt sorry for human beings because we've forgotten who we are or forgotten what we are. We didn't know what we are, what we were. Like we're so much more than this, right?
Right.
So, I don't know if someone actually had a mind conversation with an alien and that really happened, but that's interesting, right? It's an interesting
Yeah.
thing to think about. Are we, uh, you know, I had this conversation with a friend of mine lately too, man, talking about some of the depression and stuff. And it's like, I feel like I know this is going to sound weird, but I feel like I already know that. I feel like I already know that this isn't correct.
Yeah.
Like whatever this Eric Bass
Yeah.
avatar, like I already
Speak soon.
know, I already know that, like, and nothing would surprise me less than to find that out for a fact because it feels so uncomfortable. Like this whatever this thing vessel is, and I'm appreciative for it. I'm not ungrateful. I have my health, which is great. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that I feel like whatever this reality is that we're in, and I believe that there is a different reality that we don't know about, yeah, I believe that we, uh, when we're done with this life, we carry on, you know. Um, I believe like this is a test. Like we're put down here, this is a test. And I don't know what the test is about. I don't know what the right and wrong answers are. I don't know what I'm being quizzed on. Um, but I feel like it's a test, because it's difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy for happy people. It's and I'm dealing with this depression, right? But it's not easy for for anyone. Life's not easy. Well, why is it not easy? Why is it inherently difficult? Uh, why is dealing with other human beings inherently difficult? Why do we make other people's existence difficult
Right.
for no apparent reason? Why do people stand in other people's way with things that they shouldn't stand in their way about? You know, um, uh, I just feel like it's a spiritual test. Like we are being uh, we're shoved into these containers that we don't that are like fitting into an ill-fitting shoe, and it's like it's we're crammed in here. If you listen to people who talk about having near-death experiences, they talk about when they're told they have to come back and they get put back in their body, how they feel like they went from feeling like when they weren't in their body that they occupied every point in the universe all at one time, like they
Right.
were just completely free, and that when they get put back in the body, that they feel like they're just squeezed back into this heavy, lumbering, cumbersome thing. Um, and I feel that, like I feel that big time. So, uh, man, I feel like there are things that maybe that's just maybe what I was about to say. As I was going to say that I feel like there are people, humans on Earth, who know exactly what reality is, but they're led in on it by whomever is here watching us, watching over us, right? But you can
Right.
call them aliens or whatever you want to call them, but just whatever's here. I think there are humans that know what the actual real deal is, and I think that it's in. If I think about it in an altruistic way, like if their intentions are good, it's that we're not. They don't want us to find out any of this stuff because it's in our best interest not to know,
Yeah.
right? Or it's if it's in their it's not if it's not done in good faith and they're bad actors, it's in their best interest for us not to know,
Right.
right? And I don't know which one of those things is the case. But there's something else you wanted to talk about that kind of leads us to this, and you hinted on it at first, is about the oceans, right? Like, why do we know? Why are we
Right.
spending so much time in space and such little time in the ocean? And that's a great question, man. It's like it's right there. Technologically, it probably says it is. I mean, it is difficult, the crushing pressures of being down at depth and stuff like that.
Yep.
But we've made things that can go down there. I just watched a thing on History Channel, or it might have been Discovery. It's either Discovery or History Channel, about this guy, and I don't know his name, but you can look it up. He just went down to the deepest point of every ocean in the world. So all seven seas. They scan,
Yep.
because we've scanned the ocean, so we know where those depths are. They send probes down, and those probes settle themselves. They're kind of like drones. They'll settle themselves when they get to the lowest point, the lowest depth. You can't go any further than this. And then that guy goes down in a submarine and finds those probes. So he's down at that depth. So he's absolutely at the deepest part of all seven oceans, and he did that. And it's really amazing to watch.
Interesting.
Um, we have the technology to do that. Um, I don't think that it's creating a submersible, an exploratory submersible. I don't think that coming up with the engineering to do that on a regular scale, large regular scale, is any more difficult than trying to come up with how to launch humans into space on liquid or solid rocket
Yeah.
technology. I mean, it's no less dangerous, or
Correct.
there's no more or less trepidation. I would have no more or less trepidation either way.
Unless they know what's down there, they
So
can't tell us.
this is what I'm getting at, right?
Hollow Earth,
It's like
Atlantis.
what's down there they don't want us to know about because it's a very interesting question. It's right here. I live it's that
Anyone,
direction.
a majority of
Two,
the world has touched or has access every day to touch the ocean.
yeah. I can hear it from my house like at night.
Right.
It's 2 miles that direction.
And its effect
Uh
from everything from earthquakes to tsunamis to floods to the tides. It's like ecosystem, everything is so involved with the oceans, yet
until you and it's like it's one of those questions that I never really thought about until today. Like you take this was our text conversation.
where's Jack Cousteau? Where's that new one? Like that legacy.
Jack Cousteau.
Yeah.
He's a bartender down
Jacques.
the down the street. Jack Cousteau, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where's
he
his legacy?
well, but he I think, but it's like we don't ever. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we ever
It's never
explore the.
celebrated enough, right?
We never really explore the really interesting parts of the ocean. Like we explore the beautiful parts of the ocean,
Right.
the
Ooh, a
reefs and
shipwreck. Ooh, the
yeah,
Titanic.
right, yeah. Uh, uh,
Give me the Marianas Trench with all the demons and dragons and monsters down there.
So this is what this is. I'm just going to read our
Yeah, I
personal
love it.
conversation today. So I showed everyone earlier. This is where John sent me the thing about the scientist, and then I said I think we're beginning to fuck with things we shouldn't be fucking with. And he said let's talk about that on next time we do the next time we do the Taco Tuesday. Can science go too far? Uh, and then John says like that robot shit that's being done at Boston Dynamics. And
Oh,
I said, CERN. I said, are we at the point where science is spilling over into the spiritual? And he says, correct. And then John says, we're exploring other planets and galaxies, yet our oceans are untouched. And then I said, is there a reason for that? What's down there that our governments have? Sorry, what's down there that our governments have never spent the money to explore it? Maybe space is a red herring and the oceans are the answer. And he said, it's weird, right? And then he said, can you record now? Say in 15 minutes, this shit is running through my head. And then we end up here. So, but to that point, man, like I've never thought about it until that moment. And it's like, yeah, it's so obvious.
I think
Like,
this next week I gotta go down some rabbit holes and just kind of see what the
well, I mean, but I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole at USOs, right? And the
yeah
fact that sailors used to see lights moving through the ocean at like incredible speeds, just under
yeah
the water, back and forth, and then coming out of the water and taking off and going back into the water.
yep
That's been a huge thing, of these USOs, like UFOs, USOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them now,
yep
that that come out of the sky down into the ocean and keep moving. Like our Navy has sonar data of objects moving through the ocean at thousands of miles an
it's
hour.
not a submarine or a
Like
correct
friction doesn't allow that in
correct.
the normal sphere. There is some sort of physics being done that we don't understand. What is down there? I find it interesting that when they made some of these Hollywood movies like Spielberg with Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah,
And what was the movie where the Cocoon,
Cocoon.
where the spaceship comes up out of the
Walter
water.
Brimley, diabetes,
The Diabetes.
diabetes.
Cocoon is a great movie, man. It might
Oh,
be
it's
one of my favorite 80s movies, right?
amazing.
It's 80s, right? Not 90s,
Yeah,
80s. Yeah.
85 ish, 84 ish,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
But the fact that this craft comes up out of the ocean, and
Abyss.
Abyss is another one.
Yes.
But if you listen to people inside who were inside of NASA and inside the government when those movies were being made, they talked about how Spielberg and these other directors had
James Cameron.
meetings with
Yeah.
with our government about this stuff. So what were they letting know, that they could
What were they
potentially
trying to
use?
redact from a supposedly made up story? Like
Right. Well,
wow.
that's one of the weird things is that there are people who say that Spielberg was read in on stuff to make Close Encounters. Like they kind of wanted him to let people know that
Yeah.
this was going on,
It's
you
almost
know?
like Kubrick, how they kind of incorporate him into
Yes,
stuff.
just like that, right? So I wonder about the underwater stuff, and it's like, what's down there? Who is down there? What
Right.
is down there? Like what if, like I said, what if space is the shiny ball that we're all told to look at over here, where in the meantime, everything we want to know, everything we're looking for, these maybe they're not interdimensional, maybe they're
Yeah.
not alien, maybe they've been living down there the whole time,
I just saw a thing.
and our deal is that we leave them alone,
I just
right?
saw a thing where I guess some people that have been studying like the Great Pyramids and stuff like that, or the Great Pyramid, like the water, the certain markings, they say it's actually water damage,
Who said
and
it's great? Wait, hang on a
they're
second.
underwater. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if like I always see that picture of the meme where it's like you see the top of the pyramid, and then it goes down miles of just this
Yeah,
chambers. Well, what if with the water receding, like there's a whole other empire and stuff down there where it's just like this is you're just seeing the top of this thing.
yeah. Oh, for sure,
It's
man.
all
Yeah,
fascinating, man.
it's well, it's Robert
The
Schoch, right?
pre-flood civilizations and all
Dude,
that shit.
we need to get Robert Schoch on the
Yes,
Taco
we will.
Tuesdays, man. Because Robert Schoch is a scientist who's put his reputation on the line to step out of the dogma of archaeology and say that the weathering on the side of the Sphinx is water erosion
Right.
and not wind erosion. He shows there is some wind erosion, but this is water erosion, and the Sphinx was underwater was underwater 10,000 years ago,
Yep.
and that it's super old and it's way older than the pyramids.
Right.
And if you look at some of what the Egyptians wrote, that they basically some of the writings are told in a way that seems as though the Sphinx was already there when they got there, which is it's odd.
Yep.
But I want to go back to what I was asking earlier. Who said the Great Pyramid is great? Like, what if it's just
Yeah, I mean,
okay?
why
What if
is it?
what if what if what if
It's not the biggest, right?
what if it's just an okay pyramid?
Yeah.
Like,
Who had the arrogance to be like,
that's great.
I've built a lot of these guys, but this is the great one.
This is great.
I
Like,
mean, we all know
yeah,
the pyramids are in Antarctica too. So yeah,
I
I don't
could
know, man. It's
I could probably build a great pyramid.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's
I
the
mean, it'd be made out of wood, but
how come there hasn't been something built since where they put great in front of it? Oh my god, it's the Great Bridge. Like, where is that?
uh, the Great Stool.
Yeah, I know we got to wrap up, but like when you
Uh,
look at stuff like the pyramids or like the Sphinx or like Petra or like these
that's another.
advanced
Petra's a great one, man. Like,
intellectuals, like no
what
human made that shit, man.
what is Petra about?
Besides Indiana Jones, I've been always fascinated by the history. Like, uh, it's crazy.
Have you seen the video? Go on YouTube and find the video of the guy who's trying to carve granite with copper tools, which is what we're told
There's no
that
way a human did all that.
but we're told that that the Egyptians carved
Right.
built the Great Pyramid and carved all these sarcophagi. That's what it is. Not sarcophaguses, it's sarcophagi. Uh, but like these inside right angles into granite, which is super hard.
And all
Like
the doors and places like that, like Petra, are so big and large. It's like, what is walking through that door?
yeah. I mean, honestly, man, this is sort of the one thing that the ancient aliens thing has brought to light is for me is those large, like I never thought about these monolithic structures and how inhuman they are. Like how incapable we are as humans to move some of these stones. What is it, Machu Picchu or something
Yeah.
where like it's 2,500 3,000 feet up a
Right.
mountainside, but up there are these granite or sandstone. I don't know what it is, granite or not up there, but these stones that are like tons and tons and tons and tons of weight that no human could get up there. Like how did
Especially
it just
back then, where the altitude would have killed. Like even with the technology now, it's tough to
yeah.
even do all this climbing. And these,
Well, now we're going down a Graham Hancock rabbit hole.
I do.
But
I'm down every route. I mean, look at Easter Island. All that. Like, what is all
yeah.
that? What is all that shit?
Well, and the fact that they talk about how they rolled them on logs and all this and blah blah blah. There are no trees on Easter Island.
No,
There are no trees on
there
Easter
never
Island.
were.
There are no trees on Easter Island. They
Right.
didn't roll them. And by the way, those heads on Easter Island are buried. You're seeing the top third. The
Correct.
head is the top third. There
It,
is another two-thirds of these things buried, bodies of these things, moai, that's what they're called.
yeah.
They're buried underneath.
Did they shrink because of like time and weather and the earth, or were they
It was
buried
it
on
was
purpose?
it was cold.
Yeah, they needed to stay warm. They're lower tookish.
No, I don't have answers to all these. These are just that's the beautiful thing about Taco Tuesdays, people, is
I love it.
we're just wondering. We don't have any answers.
Let
We're just
just talk about it. And I think we
yeah.
actually should bring on people.
All talk, no answers, man.
Hell
That's
yeah,
the shirt right there.
no talk, all answers.
All talk, no answers. Taco Tuesday.
But yeah, we should probably wrap this up.
maybe that's the mug. Maybe that's the mug.
Yeah, I like that.
Is
Or the shot glass.
all talk, no answers.
But yeah, this was a good one. We'll have to do it again next Tuesday.
Yeah, man. And by the way, man, if anybody has anything that they want to hear us talk about, if there's anything you're interested in, you want to hear us
Yeah, I mean we have
go
the
on about,
Instagram handle up. It's Spirit Taco Tuesdays.
we appreciate all 20 of you so
Yeah,
far. Yeah.
but definitely message in different topics. The
Yeah.
thing with Eric and I, um,
Or on YouTube, if you guys want to leave it in the comments, just ask,
the YouTube, but we can also, for us, we always send back different news stories, whether it's seeped in any truth whatsoever. But if it comes from a good looking guy, looks like a scientist, it's
yeah.
a cool news, a nice title to it. We're down to talk about it. I
And,
love,
and we're not necessarily scared of topics that some people might be scared of talking about.
yeah, I don't
And,
care. Yeah.
yeah, well, no, I'm just saying, like, I of course don't want to be divisive or anything like that, but we're kind people and we love everyone, and I'm just curious about things. It's not
Yeah.
really I don't have anything figured out. That's the thing. So this is something to that point we can end with this. Just talking about going forward and things we want to talk about is at one point I was thinking about writing a book about like the things that I've learned so far and things that helped me with my depression and all of this stuff. But I find out every day how much I don't know,
Yeah.
and I feel I would feel like such a fraud writing something, trying to tell people how to be or what to think or what I've figured out. So it works for me, but I, that again, I think that we're coming from a place of curiosity. So, and humble curiosity. And so I don't mind broaching, doing thought experiments about certain things.
Yeah.
So if it's something you're interested in and something you want to talk about, let us know and we can keep digging into things. I just burped again.
I'm into it.
I can't.
We'll talk about burping next
I can't
episode.
stop it. I had a coffee. I was drinking coffee.
Eric
I
actually
can't
just
help it.
burped from the future. So what we're hearing is on this current
There's a particle collision happened in my
yeah,
esophagus.
he's got the Higgs boson in the throat.
Let's end on that.
Later.